Well, you know, don't bring it. Yes. Yeah, you are. You a Boy Scout? That meets expectations.
I mean, you knew, right?
Oh, wow.
Good evening, everyone. Praise God. How y'all doing? Welcome to our April 14th, 7 o'clock City Council meeting. We will have invocation by Vice Mayor Dema.
Let's pray.
Followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Dear Lord, thank you for the chance to gather in a free country and to exercise our freedoms and our liberty. Bless us tonight. Help us, give us wisdom, give us unity, give us the ability to get things done for the people of Lynchburg. Pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we start off special with 2 recognitions, the first being Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. I'll go ahead and read the proclamation into the record. Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Whereas emergencies requiring police, fire, and emergency medical services can occur at any time in the city of Lynchburg, Virginia. And whereas the prompt response of first responders depends on the accuracy and efficiency of our emergency communications officers. And whereas these professionals serve as the critical link between residents and emergency services, ensuring first responders receive the necessary information to protect lives and property. And whereas in 2025, Lynchburg Police Department's emergency communications officers answered a total of 171,391 emergency and non-emergency calls. Of those calls, 57,303 calls were received on 911 lines. Emergency communications officers also received 174 citizen-initiated text to 911 initiated communications. This includes 8 CPR saves and 1 birth, with over 99% of emergency calls answered in 15 seconds or less, significantly exceeding national standards. And whereas proper use of 911 services enhances efficiency and saves lives, now therefore he, Larry Taylor, Mayor of the City of Lynchburg, does hereby proclaim April 12th through 18th, 2026 as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Lynchburg in honor of the dedication of professionalism and of emergency communications officers. And I believe Chief Edwards might have a few things to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and members of council. Appreciate you taking this time to recognize our telecommunicators this week. They do an amazing job each and every week. I can tell you that they're actually our first responders. Often the public, they think of public safety, they think of the police officer, they think of the firefighter, the medic arriving on scene, and they don't picture the telecommunicator on the other end of the phone. And they just do amazing work, whether it's giving CPR instruction, whether it's giving advice. They do incredible work. Just proud of them. I'm proud of them. Our department's proud of them, and the community is better for them. So thank you.
Yes, and we're proud.
Yeah, I'm a little. Katie, I'll be over. All right, one for me. I'm good.
All right, next up is Lynchburg Public Library's 60th anniversary. Whereas in 1961, a group of school and college librarians pushed back against segregation by campaigning of the city's first public library. And whereas from this group formed the Friends of the Lynchburg Public Library with mission to establish a library for all citizens regardless of gender, race, or creed. And whereas on April 16th, 1966, the Lynchburg Public Library opened its doors in an 8,000 square foot space housed on the 3rd floor of a maintenance building on Main Street. And whereas after quickly outgrowing the space, the former Sears building inside the Pittman Plaza was converted into the library's new home on Memorial Avenue. And whereas over the past 60 years, the Lynchburg Public Library has proudly served the city's population of over 88,000 residents, providing essential services, resources, and programs, carrying out the original mission to serve all citizens. Now, therefore, he, Larry Taylor, Mayor of the City of Lynchburg, does hereby proclaim April 16th, 2026 as Lynchburg Public Library's 60th anniversary in Lynchburg to celebrate this remarkable milestone. Oh, no. Okay. No, all good. All right, Mr. Mayor. Tonight's City Council agenda is divided into 5 sections: consent agenda, public hearing, public comment, general business, and a closed session. The first section is the consent agenda. It includes routine items that can be approved with one vote. Before council considers this, I did get a request from Councilmember Timmer to pull the minutes and put them on to the next meeting, just to allow for 2 weeks more to review these minutes. It's up to council if that will happen. It's by consensus.
Sure.
Okay. So then you just link a motion for the consent agenda and the second readings.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
You want to speak? Mr. Ferrari?
Just to make sure we're on the same page, this will be for the 147 Mill Ridge Road authorization and reallocation of funds and the issuance cost for public bond.
That's correct.
Cool. Thank you.
And I'm working on it.
Okay, I'll call for the voice vote. Councilmember Ferraldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Mischens?
Yes.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Timmer?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Deemer?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. All right, moving along to the next section is public hearings. These are required by law or directed by council. The procedure, staff will give a presentation, the public can give comments. Individuals have 3 minutes to speak. If speaking for a group, you have 5. Group speakers must say which group they represent. Each group gets 1 spokesperson. Each speaker must say their name and the locality of residence. After public comments, the public hearing will close and the matter will rest with council. Agenda item number 13, consideration of adopting a resolution amending the future land use map and adopting an ordinance changing the zoning of a certain area located at 609 Dunbar Drive and 612 12th Street. Ms. Rachel Fresheisen, City Planner, will provide a summary of the request.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council. The purpose of this petition is to amend the future land use map from neighborhood commercial to downtown and to rezone 2,100 of an acre at 609 and 612 12th Street from B5 to B4 to allow 2 existing warehouses to be redeveloped into approximately 28 apartment units. Planning Commission had recommended approval of this item at their public hearing on March 11th. The city's future land use map recommends neighborhood commercial use for the properties. These areas are intended to be things like retail, office, personal service, and restaurant uses that are scaled and designed to be compatible with and serve immediate neighborhoods. The petition proposes to amend the future land use map to downtown. This is our central commercial core of the city and appropriately should contain a mix of retail, entertainment, restaurant, employment, residential, and other uses. The downtown area should retain its urban character and adaptive reuses of historic structures is desirable. The subject property was annexed into the city in 1870. The existing B5 zoning was established in 1978. The properties contain 2 4-story historic warehouse structures totaling approximately 20,000 square feet. If the petition is approved, the existing buildings would be redeveloped into 28 residential units. The petitioner also plans to provide 28 parking spaces at 612 Dunbar Drive. The proposed residential development is permitted in the proposed B4 district and would agree with the proposed future land use map agreement. The rezoning facilitates adaptive reuse of an existing building while preserving historic character and improving a gateway to downtown. Thank you.
Would the petitioner like to make a presentation?
Hi, good evening, council. My name is Casey Service, I'm the architect for the project. I'm here representing my client, Danny George, who's the owner of the LLC. And as Rachel mentioned, these are 2 historic warehouses, including the one at 612 12th Street is the last remaining warehouse that was also used as a Civil War hospital. As she mentioned, the buildings are over 20,000 square feet on lots that are combined just over 9,000 square feet. So the existing zoning makes it difficult to use that space, and they've been underutilized most recently as general contractor's office and warehouse. And so we're asking to rezone it to B4 to allow us to use that in the entirety of that 20,000 square feet. Utilizing historic tax credits, so the exteriors of the structures will remain largely consistent with what you see today, other than the needed necessary repairs. My client, Danny George, has successfully completed multiple other projects in town, including 3 similar projects in the vicinity, including the Virginia Laundry Lofts that are just 2 doors down. So he's got a vested interest in the neighborhood. And we're here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this project? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition of this project? No? Ms. Alicia, is there any voicemails?
There are none.
Okay. Motion to approve. Second, you want to speak to your second? You'll speak to your first, yes.
Those are really neat buildings right there. They've got a ton of character. Appreciate that you guys are going to be doing something with them to develop them and make a good use out of them. I appreciate you respecting the history of the buildings. And I think the outside of the buildings are spectacular. And the fact that you're going to leave them like that, you know, to the best extent you can and preserve that is just fantastic. I think it's a wonderful project, and I appreciate you guys taking the time and your money to invest into that and accomplish this. Thank you.
Speak to your second.
I'm very thankful that the buildings are going to be maintained in their historical integrity. There's actually a lot more history to those buildings. I think people realize I'm forgetting his name, but the man who owned the tobacco company that was run out of there, do you remember his name? Yes, Mr. Carroll, and his original house is in the vacant lot across the street, correct? Or is that Mr. Duke? There's a lot of really cool history out of those two buildings, and yeah, it's very cool. So I'm happy to approve it. I'm glad it's not being torn down. So I'm looking forward to see what you do with it. Thank you.
Mr. Wilder?
Yes, thank you. I live right on like 2 blocks away from there. So I appreciate the redevelopment of the property because I'm glad to see property redeveloped in our community. I was a little concerned because that corner is a little challenging. But we can make it left on 12th and then cross up from Dunbar Drive and right on 12th is a little challenging. I'm glad to see you are doing parking spaces because it's kind of challenging anyway with parking. So I didn't realize there was enough spot on the side there for parking. So I'm glad to see you do have some designated parking for those apartments. I'm still in favor, even though I think it's a little challenging getting out of there sometimes, but I am still in favor because I'm going to see the properties developed in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Ferrari?
Quick question, if you don't mind. And if I've already asked this at the last meeting, I don't remember, I'm sorry, but I want to reiterate it. So you're proposing a change in the zone to a B4. Yes. Did you consider conditional use permit?
We, in consulting staff, the recommendation was to go to before. I'm trying to remember when we first started, if we talked about a conditional use permit, but before just allows more flexibility in the uses than, you know, having, because B5 has a commercial requirement and being right on 12th Street, there's no sidewalk or anything, really limits the usability of that building for commercial. So yeah, we felt like B4 was the best.
It's direction. For that flexibility that I was asking the question. And so I want to thank you. I want to say that I love what is here. I support what is here. I disagree with the mechanism, and here's why. B4 would allow a lot of other things down the line that it's my understanding would be able to change. And if staff wants to make a comment on that, that's welcome. But at this point, that's where I'm coming from with this at this moment.
Just to add to what Mr. Service was saying about potentially looking at B5 with a conditional use permit, for instances where we allow multifamily residential in B5 with the CUP, it still requires 1,000 square foot of lot area per unit. So I think Mr. Service said it's like 9,000 square feet something, so they would be limited to about 9 units as opposed to the 28 that they're proposing here. Okay.
I respect that. I think Rachel cringes inside every time I say this. I hate zoning. I think it's so ridiculous on so many fronts. But I respect what you guys do. Reiterating something I said since I first got elected, I'm looking at Kent. You know exactly what I'm going to say here. I hate using a business zone for a residential use. I've said it for years. If this is something that we can incorporate into the big plan that we're coming up on, which the name of which is escaping me. Thank you, the comprehensive plan. It's just a personal nitpick. That being said, I wish them all the best. I hope this is a success. And I appreciate my colleagues for indulging.
Just for clarification, I think, Dr. Wilder, I'm not sure if you realize that isn't the parking lot in that empty lot that's across the way? So there's an empty lot that is currently all overgrown with trees. That will be where parking is put. You already knew that? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I know you can't see it on there, but will that be a parking, just a flat parking lot, or will it be elevated? How are you doing it?
The site plan is in design, it will largely be down behind where the warehouse was.
And you'll use that little driveway entrance
Yeah,
that's
there's an
kind of
existing
already
driveway entrance
down in
that
there.
we use.
Okay, cool.
And there are no more trees.
Oh, it's cleared already?
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. All right, thank you.
Any more discussion? Let's vote.
Mr. Mayor, just one point of clarification. This item has two pieces of legislation attached to it, an amendment on the flume and a rezoning. Was the motion to cover both?
The motion is
To cover both.
We can
Nope,
do,
that's perfectly fine. Just make that clear.
we can separate it. I'll amend the motion to, first I'll do the motion to amend the flume.
All right. All right, initiating that now. Let me refresh. Okay, there we go. The motion passes 7-0. Looking for a motion on the rezoning.
Second.
All right, initiating that now. The motion passes 6-1. All right, moving along. Agenda item number 14, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a conditional use permit to allow the use of an existing residential dwelling as a group home for up to 8 individuals at 271 Riverside Drive. Again, Ms. Rachel Fresheisen, City Planner, will provide a summary of the request.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. The purpose of the CUP petition is to allow the use of an existing residential dwelling as a group home for up to 8 individuals in an R2 district. Planning Commission motions to approve and deny this petition failed after their public hearing on February 25th. The future land use map recommends low-density residential use for the property. These are dominated by single-family detached housing. In addition to residential uses, these may include public and institutional uses that are compatible in scale with single-family residential homes. The property is zoned R2 low-medium density residential district. In this district, large group homes are permitted upon approval of a conditional use permit from council. The subject property consists of approximately 1/3 of an acre at 271 Riverside Drive. The property contains a 2-story structure with attached garage constructed in 2025. The structure is approximately 3,000 square feet in size. Miller Home is currently using the property as proposed by the CUP. In September of 2025, Miller Home staff consulted with the zoning division and were advised that this property was appropriate for use as a group home for up to 8 children. Based on that information, Miller Home relocated from their previous facility and completed all their necessary DSS approvals. I just want to emphasize here that Miller Home followed the appropriate process. They consulted with zoning and were told it was permitted. So Miller Home did not attempt to bypass or circumvent any city processes here. A couple of months later, upon a further review of city code and state code, staff determined that a conditional use permit is required for a group home that serves more than 4 children. On January 12th, the Miller Home was notified that a CUP is needed in this case and subsequently submitted this petition. At Planning Commission, this item had a condition regarding the CUP being non-transferable and only applicable to Miller Home specifically. As noted in your agenda summary, as well as an email from the city attorney. We had some concerns about the enforceability of that condition, so it has been amended in consultation with the attorney's office as well as the applicant to regulate use rather than ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the petitioner like to make a presentation?
I'm just here to speak in favor. Good evening, Mayor Taylor and members of council. My name is Brian Tiller. I'm a lifetime resident here of Lynchburg. I am the president of the Miller Home Board of Directors. I've served in some capacity with the Miller Home for the past 23 years. And during that time, I've had the pleasure to see many successes that our girls have achieved through the leadership, direction of our staff and our many volunteers. Our mission in serving these girls is essential to the overall health of our community, and Miller Home has been a cornerstone of that effort for the past 150 years. The time I've spent serving the Miller Home over the past couple of decades has undoubtedly been one of the most rewarding endeavors of my life. As I know for the rest of our board, our volunteers, our staff, past and present, they all equally feel the same. Miller Home has a long history of being great stewards, responsible neighbors in our community, and our standard is to ensure that continues at our Riverside location. Our purpose in moving to our new Riverside location was to provide a new vision of community for these girls in a more modern home with an established neighborhood to enjoy any and all of the joys and comforts that any child in our community should receive. We don't believe that our request is an excessive one. Without approval of the CUP, for us to serve up to 8 girls in our new home, this will essentially reduce our capacity and impact our mission by roughly 50% from our traditional numbers. Our history and consistent stream of applications for our services clearly show that our community far exceeds that need. So in closing, my message and my ask this evening is really a simple one. Please afford the Miller Home and our girls the same opportunity that we as a Lynchburg community would afford any family, regardless of size. I respectfully request that you approve this CUP tonight to allow us to continue our long-established mission of caring for these girls and providing a safe, loving home for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Morgan Ryan. I'm the Executive Director at the Miller Home for Girls. It's been my pleasure to be part of Miller Home since 2014. And I just am here really to share what we've done since Planning Commission, where we got to hear some of the neighborhood concerns. First, I do want to point out, since moving to Riverside Drive at the end of December, we have kept a consistent number of at least 5 girls in our program. This includes elementary school, middle school, high school, and college-aged young ladies. Since Planning Commission, we wanted to address some of the concerns that we heard, including parking. We've started keeping a vehicle log starting the day of Planning Commission just to ensure that the vehicles at Miller Home fit in our driveway. We never had more than 7 vehicles at a time, and our driveway can hold 8. We sold the very large van. The girls were so disappointed, really. But we sold the very large van so that way it could alleviate further parking concerns. We reduced the number of interns for future semesters from 5 interns to 1 for the summer and 2 for the fall. We've encouraged our girls just to be mindful as they're walking home from the bus stop or spending time outside, just to be mindful of noise and to be respectful neighbors. We attempted to contact neighbors in the Riverside area and provided them with multiple ways to contact us if they had any concerns, whether it be by call, text, or email. And then in talking with the neighbors, we were able to clarify some of the concerns that were brought up, including the Miller Home's mission, the admission criteria for Miller Home and what kind of girls we serve, how we ended up on Riverside without a conditional use permit, why we are currently pursuing one, and what would happen if Miller Home was to ever leave the Riverside location, what would happen with the conditional use permit. So thank you all so much for your consideration. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor?
Good evening. My name is Justine Ayers, and I'm proud to stand before you as a success story of Miller Home for Girls. And please excuse if I get emotional. I moved into Miller Home when I was 12 years old and lived there until I was 19. Today, I'm 26 years old, I'm a wife, and I'm a college graduate. I am somebody who is proud of the life that I have built, and I can say with full confidence that none of that would have been possible without Miller Home. I did not come from a stable or privileged background. My family was not able to provide the care that I needed as a young girl, and I didn't have much direction or support. But when I arrived at Miller Home, I was met with something I hadn't experienced: structure, guidance, and genuine love. Miller Home did not just give me a place to stay, it gave me a foundation, it gave me a second chance, and it gave me a future. The family that I have today, those that I call mom and dad, are in my life because of Miller Home. The stability I have today is because someone chose to open their doors and make room for me. And that's why I'm here. Because if Miller Home is limited to the number of girls that they can serve, then there are other girls who are just like me who may never get the same chance. I understand there may be concerns and misunderstandings about what a group home is, but I can tell you from lived experience, Miller Home is not a place to fear. It is a home that restores, supports, and builds young women into strong, capable adults. Limiting the number of girls that they can help does not strengthen the community. It limits opportunity, growth, and hope for those who need it most. Since leaving Miller Home, I have chosen to return there where I volunteered, interned, and even became a childcare worker. And that says more than words can say. So I'll leave you with this. If Miller Home was a place to fear, why would somebody keep coming back to support? Please do not let misunderstanding stand in the way of Miller Home being able to change lives one girl at a time. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor?
Mayor Taylor, Council. Ron Blackwood, past president of the Miller Home for Girls, about 2 decades being a part of the Miller Home. Justine, wow. Didn't know she was going to speak tonight till earlier today, but Justine is one of the girls that we have been involved with since she came there. And I love watching her grow as a young lady in this world. And so I'm going to keep mine brief because I think Brian and I think everyone has said pretty much what needs to be said. I do know about the misunderstanding. We started due diligence years ago to try to give the girls a place that actually is like a home and not an institution. And I think we finally found it, and it's great. And I ask you to vote for this CUP so we can continue the mission and that there is room for girls to grow. And thank you so much for your time.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone want to speak in opposition? Oh, she's coming? Okay.
Pardon me, speaking in favor. I'm speaking in favor because the Miller Home has done to me, I'll say, God nieces, based on their family situation. They've been a great, and this is Theo speaking as well, for Ward 2.
Theo.
Okay, and I think hopefully whatever needs to be resolved can be, because the program is good and it's a foundation for some of the ones who need that at a time. So thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Theo. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Anyone want to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Mayor Taylor and council members. My name is Carla Hamilton, and I have been an investor of Riverside Drive since 1986, and I own 275-279 Riverside Drive. Who are the Riverwood, the Bluff residents? We're the original multi-generational, conservationist, civic-minded, diverse neighbors who invested and even paid their real estate taxes during COVID in a neighborhood that has been geographically private, green, maintained, and not multi-use. We're the most important investors because we have helped make a neighborhood that we and others have wanted to invest in and live in. We definitely have compassion and empathy for Miller Home. They have and are and will be a private commercial nonprofit business that will assist young clients become independent, high-functioning citizens. So what is the real problem? Well, this set up Riverwood and the Bluffs neighborhood for more businesses to establish themselves into the neighborhood. Why is this a problem? Research by the National Association of Realtors and the Joint Center of Housing Studies has shown that prospective investors buy homes quickly and stay long-term if the majority of the homes in the neighborhood are lived in by the owner-occupant or the owner-occupant and their families. If you decide that a commercial nonprofit business, in essence, should have the right to change the neighborhood into a multi-use neighborhood, residents of the subdivision requested in writing on their surveys that Miller Home not have large business-type signage, that they not solicit neighbors, and due to parking issues, continue to tighten their schedules for employees, volunteers, and visitation. It's also been asked that they have major events and large meetings elsewhere. One reason for this request is that they don't have a parking lot. Another reason, it was noted on the survey that the privacy and the safety of our elected officials who live within our neighborhood have to have priority. Lastly, the privacy of the neighborhood has been a prime reason residents have stayed in the neighborhood long-term. Again, will this conditional use permit set a precedent for more exceptions to be requested for conditional use or even rezoning by others in the future? We are the original investors who have felt safe because we have lived, maintained, upgraded a vital R2 medium density neighborhood that is located by geography in a private setting.
The time has expired.
We love our neighborhood.
Thank you.
And as Billy Joel would say, we don't like changing. We like the way we are.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Council. I'm speaking for the group. My name is Carolyn Wicks, and I'm a resident of Riverside Drive. And my purpose is to share the concerns of our group, of our residents concerning Miller Home, because I know you look at Planning Commission's mixed split decision and think, why is there opposed? Why is there for? This seems like a go. And one of the things I want you to hear from the comments, both in, of course, pro and against and opposition, is the tremendous caring that goes on in Riverside Drive. We have a tremendous love for Miller Home, and our issue is not with their mission. It's not the wonderful testimonials that you've heard. Our issue is that the placement of this is misplaced. And so my purpose is to talk about the zoning compliance and to explain why residents believe that you tonight can confidently vote no against the CUP. Miller Home is currently operating 2 prohibited uses at 271 Riverside Drive. They're operating a business headquarters and a group home that has been functioning for all intents and purposes since January without a conditional use permit. R2 zoning allows neither of these. Their mailing address, their administrative functions, and organizational footprint all operate from this single-family home on Riverside Drive. This places a business and an institutional operation inside a low-density residential corridor without the 2 CUPs that are needed for this zoning. When residents realized a business office and a group home had been inserted into our quiet and isolated street, we responded responsibly and caringly. And volunteers, not just one person, many, created a clear informational flyer and went door to door to the 65 homes on Riverside Drive. We also conducted a signature survey after we'd given residents much time to consider, and again went door to door to make sure that people's opinions, both for and against, were truly represented, because we knew we couldn't get everybody out at 7 o'clock putting their babies to sleep tonight to tell you what they thought. So we gave them that opportunity, and you can see that in your file from Rachel. 67% of the participating households in Riverside Drive, more than 2/3, asked that the CUP be denied. They're asking you to deny this. This is not opposition for opposition's sake. It is a community asking for a decision that aligns with what research shows is best for these girls. Remember that the testimonials you've heard tonight were at Westerly Drive. They weren't at Riverside Drive. A no vote gives Miller Home the opportunity to sell this isolated property and reinvest in a location that is institution compatible, service rich, and youth centered. Research supports this. A 2021 federal study showed that youth placed in walkable, transit accessible environments show stronger social engagement and better transition into adulthood. A national research analysis of group care show that youth thrive when they have consistent access to community life, mentors, jobs, social networks, conditions far more available in Lynchburg in a mixed use or downtown environment rather than the isolated residential corridor that is 271 Riverside Drive. Yet tonight, here we are discussing housing 8 girls on an unimproved stretch of Riverside Drive, far from the city center, without public transit accessible, and without the social fabric that Lynchburg provides downtown. Their world is a narrow corridor of private yards and driveways. This is not independence. This is not community integration. This is not what the research says works for these young ladies. Your own revitalization efforts as a city council, the great restaurants, the amphitheater, the riverfront, everything that makes downtown Lynchburg great is not what is accessible to these girls. They need to thrive in a connected, walkable, socially rich environment that's downtown. It's not Riverside Drive. So a no vote tonight is not a vote against the wonderful mission of Miller Homes. That's not what is being decided here. We all support that. What is being decided on is the chance to give Miller Home that needed chance to take a breath and think about what they're trying to do for their girls and where that is best accomplished. And we as residents of Riverside Drive are saying the best place is not there because of all the needs and wraparound services that these girls need that's not available way out on Riverside Drive. So thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Are there any voicemails?
There are none.
Hold on. Public hearing is now closed. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
I'll speak to your motion.
I would. First of all, thank you for sharing your testimony. It was very inspiring, and I appreciated what you couldn't see behind you, which was your husband emotionally supporting you, which I think is a wonderful thing. So thank you for doing that. I know a bit about the Miller Home for Girls. When the previous executive director was in charge, I got to have a tour, and then I've been back several times since then because community collaboration, and we appreciate that. What I know, and I appreciate everyone that's spoken tonight about, I think the transition to the house and what I love about the mission of the Miller Home for Girls. I think the first time that I met, I was introduced to the mission. I met some sisters that were just the sweetest thing, and I was so impressed. and to learn more about the history of the Miller home and then those girls particularly, and then learn more about really what the purpose is and kind of who comes in and out, and the success stories was just really impressive. And understanding what this move was about and why, and the need and the desire for these young ladies to have a sense of community in a real neighborhood. There's a need for safety. There's a need for a family type of setting that wasn't really getting met in the extremely large building that you were in, and that was too big for the number of girls you're serving now. And that's really what is being accomplished in this home. Obviously, there were some problems here with the CUP that now we're trying to address. And, you know, some of the objections that we heard tonight, I started thinking about, you know, and that we can overcome with a business and with the number of people in the house or whatever the case may be. You know, we have people that have home churches in their houses, whether they're doing it legally or not. Neighborhoods, you know, and neighbors may not care for the number of cars that meet in their driveways or in their streets on a regular basis, but maybe they aren't bothered by that because it's a home church. There might be neighbors that sell Pampered Chef or some type of other item like that out of their house and have you know, demonstrations out of their homes on a regular basis. Do people complain about that because there's people at their houses all the time for those types of gatherings? I mean, the Bible studies that meet, there's all kinds of things that happen in people's homes on a regular basis that cause a lot of cars to be there. A lot. There's people that just like to socialize. Do neighbors complain about that as often? You know, you have 8 young women who are being supervised in a home on a residential street who we're trying to give an opportunity to. And if the studies that I know were done showed that they were supposed to be in a different part of the city, then that's where the Miller home would have invested their money. They wouldn't have chosen a neighborhood because they would have said, well, the studies and the data shows we should be downtown. And that's where they would have put the girls and their staff. So there's a reason that they picked a suburban neighborhood. And I trust that because I know as a nonprofit, you have to be very wise with the money that you're given and how you invest it. So I respect the concerns that were shared, but I know what you're trying to do for these young women. And I think you've done a lot already to try to accommodate the concerns of the neighbors. I mean, selling the giant van, which was a really hard thing to do because that's your people mover, you know? So to do that and to make the other accommodations, I think was fair. I support you. And it's not because it was an emotional presentation. I'm not operating on emotion here. I understand what you're trying to do. And I think we need to be supportive of that. And, you know, I respect the neighbors' concerns, but I think that your operation has the right to be there. We make accommodations for other organizations and we make accommodations for all kinds of things. And I think there's a way to make this one work too. So.
Ms. Ferrari, you want to speak to your second?
I'll speak briefly and reserve the rest of my comments for later if need be. There's a lot to say. Okay, I'm not gonna go down all of it, at least at this juncture. I really have a disdain for, I support, but not in my backyard. So if this somehow fails, I'll work with you guys to get into Windhurst, right next door to me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Timmer?
Thank you. I will follow up with that because it is my backyard. Hello, neighbors. Great to see everyone. So I'm right on the corner there and a resident of Riverside Drive, a happy resident of Riverside Drive. And I'm very grateful for the community of Riverside Drive that is incredibly politically diverse, age diverse, racially diverse. We've got a lot of great people and they really care for each other. And that's a very special thing. And I want to walk you all through my journey with this zoning decision because I have gone back and forth for various reasons. I will be supporting it tonight and I'm going to explain why, but I want to start with where I started, how I've come to that decision, and then hopefully welcome you all to the neighborhood with understanding that you're entering something that is, you have something that's very special culturally, but we have something that's very special culturally. And so walking that out and what that understanding looks like together is going to be very important and significant moving forward. So originally I was not in favor. I was not in favor because of what we have in the Riverside Drive community, and adding an institutional presence I did not think would be an asset to that. Additionally, it's a dead-end street. Parking is on both sides. I would love a Sprinter van, I'll be honest. So I wish I had known y'all were selling it. It could have just moved up the street. But it's difficult getting in and out at times, and especially when you have that bluff there. And so if somebody's going to come into the neighborhood, doesn't know the lay of the land, cuts a corner, my son is always trying to run into the street. We've finally gotten past that phase, but he loves the street and he throws his balls off the porch to go into the street so he can retrieve them in the street. So we've had to change some of the rules around that. So there are a lot of littles in the neighborhood that he shouts at Alice, I shouldn't say her name, but catty corner, and they'll try and get to each other, and they're 2 and 3 and this, that, and the other. So you start adding that institutional element in this dead end road, that can create a lot of problems. What has brought me to this has actually been 2 components. One, I believe that the city staff error in communication with you all was under the recognition that this is operating as a foster family. But it's, so zoning wise, you'd be accepted as a foster family, but there's this institutional element that isn't fully compatible with that. And so it put everyone in a difficult situation where you'd moved into the property, thought there was approval, it didn't actually comply, and now we have this gridlock. But in addition to that, there have been some recent decisions by the Board of Zoning Appeals, and with those decisions, it has come out of an ambiguity between the distinctions between recovery homes and group homes. And as such, currently there's enough ambiguity where a recovery home, which has to do with substance abuse, operates as a protected class in residential areas. And so because of that, and with the previous history of the Miller home transitioning to Sobrias, which I supported and I do support, I believe that this home, because I've watched it for sale for a long time, would be very difficult to sell unless it conforms to some kind of institutional use. And so the likelihood of it being filled with another type of with a recovery home as opposed to a foster care type group home, I think is very high. And so with that, I'm very grateful actually to the city attorney's office for his work on the conditional use permit. I know I'm covering a lot of ground. I'm trying to kind of keep it condensed. With the conditional use permit in zoning, it cannot be attributed to a particular owner. It has to be attributed to the property. So the original desire was that the conditional use permit allowing Miller Home for Girls to function would expire at the end of their ownership and use of the property. We are unable to do that. But what the city manager's office has done instead is tailor the use of that conditional use permit very narrow. So it has to do with childcare, and you could speak to this more clearly, but it has to do with childcare in some capacity. So essentially, the conditional use permit allowing Miller Home for Girls to operate cannot apply to any group home scenario should that transfer ownership. But currently, if they were to sell, and open it up for sale, there is the opportunity for an 8-person recovery home to then take ownership and operate in that facility as a substance abuse home because of the current ambiguity in our zoning. And I support those recovering from substance abuse. But I tell you what, I believe that you all will make a much better cultural fit within our community than opening the door in the context of a recovery center in this current dynamic. So I am happy to have you all in the neighborhood. I'll be supporting it tonight. I'm happy to answer and address any questions within the neighborhood and within the community. Y'all know where I live. Just look out, because we're always remodeling. So watch your step as you're coming up on the porch, but you're welcome. And anyway, glad to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Riverside Drive is a neat place. Probably about 20 years ago, I think, maybe, give or take. Actually built a house that's sitting on 212 Riverside Drive. You may have painted it. I can't remember if you painted it or not, Ron. That was one of the toughest places to get a fifth wheel trailer with a skid steer on it in. And it is tight, it is narrow, it's a neat little community back there. And it's a place where there's still a little bit of land left, which is nice. Yeah. Earlier today, I spoke with Councilmember Timmer about this because it is Ward 1, and I wanted to get her feedback. Not only is it her ward, but also it's her neighborhood. And based on the conversation I had with her, and her support for this, it's pretty easy for me. And I appreciate the work you all are doing, and I wish that you continue to do great things. Thank you.
Mr. Deemer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You all know I love our diamond neighborhoods in Lynchburg and try to protect them as best I can when I have that opportunity. I want to be used in that way. And this is definitely a unique and wonderful diamond neighborhood that deserves protection. I was unaware of it, but having visited back in there and seen it and seen the home and driven all the way to the end of the road and then tried to figure out how to turn my vehicle around, which wasn't that big, I got a real sense of the beauty and the view and the nearness to the river and just the unique nature of this neighborhood. It really is special. But I also have another feeling where we should defer to our colleagues on the dais up here who live in or represent a ward. When their opinion comes up about their ward, I do try to give them special deference. In this case, it's even her street. So it's pretty easy for me to support this. I look forward to seeing the Miller home operate the way it has for many, many years as a good neighbor and a wonderful service. And I really love the testimony that I heard tonight. That was beautiful. So it spoke better than all the other things we heard in favor. That one was a diamond comment, okay? So I look forward to supporting it, and I will be voting for it.
Dr. Wilder.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate the comments and presentation. My pastor lives right across the street. So I've been on that street a lot, and it is a hard street to turn around in. Oh my God. Because I'm so afraid I'm gonna go off a cliff. So it is a little, I know you lived on that street. It is a little challenge. Is okay? I've been watched. Oh my God, I've got a stalker. But anyway, excuse me, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Anyway, keep on moving. But I do have a little concern because of the neighbors. They mentioned about the traffic, and also I texted my pastor's wife, and she mentioned about the parking that. She mentioned, anyway, I'm not going to say what she mentioned, but it's the parking is a little challenging. So I do have some concerns. I love the Miller home. I appreciate that. I worked with them for, oh my gosh, for years and years. So I do appreciate the Miller home. I believe what they're doing. I appreciate that testimony. And I'm a nonprofit director too. So I do have a passion for that. I am concerned about the traffic. So I just want to, I can support it, but please just be careful of the parking and because you're in a neighborhood. And just kind of make sure you kind of fit in with the neighborhood. There's not a lot of cars there, that kind of thing. So I do have sympathy, passion for our neighbors as well. But I can support it today. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, please.
All right, initiating the vote now to approve. The motion passes 7-0. All right, moving along. Our next section is public comment. Speakers have 3 minutes to speak. If you're speaking for a group, you have 5. City Council listens to your comments and may ask the city manager to follow up. Citizens often have different opinions. To make sure everyone feels comfortable speaking, there are no applause, cheers, or jeers. Do not intimidate, insult, or disrupt others. Do not use profanity, promote businesses, or campaign for office. Agenda item number 15, hear from a citizen regarding police cooperation with federal law and enforcement agencies. Peter Saffarati. Thank you. Had to get that for the record, and I see he's not here. Moving along to agenda item number 16, hear from a group representative regarding offering support to our firefighters and leadership. Kathleen Bush, Auxiliary Firefighter Wives. Please restate your name, group represented, and locality of residence.
My name is Kathleen Bush. I'm speaking as part of the Auxiliary Firefighters Wives. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Again, my name is Kathleen Bush. I'm a resident of Lynchburg, and I'm here tonight because my family is hurting, and we don't understand why. My husband, the Deputy Chief of Operations of the Lynchburg Fire Department, came here in October of 2022 to serve this city. We believed in this community, and we still believe in it now. From the beginning, he worked tirelessly to improve the department. He put in long hours. He brought forward-thinking ideas, and he tried to address the concerns that he saw. But over time, what we experienced as a family was not support. It was resistance. Concerns were raised. Concerns that were raised did not appear to be meaningfully addressed. Situations occurred that left my husband feeling unsupported and at times even unsafe in his workplace. As a spouse, watching that unfold has been incredibly difficult. Several internal complaints were submitted in an effort to resolve issues through the proper channels. From our perspective, those concerns did not receive the attention or the resolution that we had hoped for. Now, for more than 8 months, my husband has been on administrative leave. He was initially told there were potential concerns regarding policy. But to this day, we still don't have a clear understanding of what specific actions led to him being removed from his role. I ask you, how does the family make sense of that? And how do I explain that? How does he explain that to our 3 children? During this time, my husband has been at home, struggling emotionally, doing everything he can to stay strong for our family. The sudden loss of his purpose, the silence, and the uncertainty have taken a toll that is hard to put into words. After months without communication, we were informed of a new investigation. That moment didn't bring us any clarity either. It only brought more confusion. One of the situations now being reviewed involves a time when my husband was seriously ill. Even while dealing with that, he continued to support his team remotely to ensure they would complete their training. From our perspective, that was an act of dedication to his people and to his profession. I stand here as his wife, not to argue or interfere with any process, but to share what this has meant to our family. My children see their father hurting. They don't understand why. Our home has changed. The weight of this situation has touched every part of our lives, our relationships, our sense of stability, and our peace. My husband has given everything to his career and to this city since he's been here. He has worked to improve safety, to mentor others, and to leave things better than he has found them. That is the man I know, and that is the man I love. So I ask you, what is happening here? Why is this taking so long? And how much more is my family expected to endure without any answers? This is not just about a job. This is about a person, a father, and a family that came here in good faith to serve. We are asking for clarity. We are asking for fairness. And most importantly, we are asking to be treated with dignity. Thank you.
Agenda item number 17, hear from a group representative regarding I'm sorry, Greg Berry, Lynchburg Guardians. Please restate your name, group representative, and locality of residence.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, Vice Mayor Deemer, and council members. My name is Greg Berry. I live in Ward 3, and I represent the Lynchburg Guardians. To God and his Son, Jesus Christ, be all the praise, honor, and glory. In light of the comments made at the last council meeting, I want to express my empathy and say how sorry I am for those who have been victimized by sexual assault. I can relate to this because I was victimized by sexual assault as a very young child. These memories will be with me for the rest of my life. I want to say how sorry I am that people have been victimized by genocide. I can empathize with this as well because my own people, the Cherokee Nation, suffered and died from starvation on the Trail of Tears, thousands of them. This is one of the largest acts of genocide committed by the U.S. government in history. I am also sorry that so many have been discriminated against, whether it is because of race, ethnicity, religion, gender. I have experienced all four. I am sorry that some people don't realize that words have legitimate meaning beyond their own personal emotional experiences. I am sorry that Vice Mayor Deemer became a victim of a cheap tactic by one who is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Mr. Deemer's great offense, he dared to bring attention to the theft of voter rights and to try to draw attention to the need for accountability by our runaway city administration. The truth is that Mr. Feraldi doesn't care one iota for the victims he used for his own political agenda, nor does he care about the citizens of Lynchburg. All of this is subservient to his lust for personal power and attention. If he did care for citizens, instead of nitpicking over terminology, which was used in a proper context, he would have focused on the messages. The voting rights and the voices of voters are being stolen with tax dollars, while tax dollars are being misused with no accountability. Mr. Feraldi may trust Mr. Binda with his life, but I do not. Both of these have proven to be untrustworthy. If Mr. Feraldi did care, instead of parading these victims before council, he would offer an opportunity for restoration and healing that comes from the Word of God and the blood of Jesus Christ. That is what I'm offering here right now. I have been a victim of many abuses, but I am no longer just a victim or just a survivor. But now I'm an overcomer and victorious over the chains that once bound me. I am now free indeed. This is what I offer, and I am ready to assist anyone who recognizes their need. This process also helped me to realize that none of us are innocent of this. Each of us has sinned against someone else in some horrific way, whether by physical abuse in some manner, bullying, or verbal abuse. The list of abuses can go on and on. We have all sinned, not just against God, but against our fellow human beings. We all need to repent and seek forgiveness. If we don't see the reality and this need, then we are blind indeed. If we are not willing to extend the hand of forgiveness and reconciliation, then neither our sins are forgiven us. Victims and their tragedies must not be used for personal or political advantage. Mr. Feraldi has reached a new low by taking victimization and weaponizing it. I am also sorry for my high expectation that council members act like adults, which is obviously impossible for some members to do without stomping off the dais and sulking in a corner because they have no self-control. I am also sorry for my expectations that Mr. Mayor Taylor would fulfill his word to stop this childishness. I am sorry for Sterling Wilder's pompous, arrogant self-righteousness, even though he is also one of the designers of this chaos. Most of all, I am sorry that the majority of council refuses to honor God, and the current chaos is proof of that. Thank you.
Agenda number 18, hear from a group representative regarding EC Glass School Board, Virginia Hask, Lexington Drive families. Please restate your name, group representative, locality of residence.
Hi, I'm Virginia Haskey. I'm Ward 1. Thank you, Mayor Taylor and Council, for listening this evening. I've been involved parent in Lynchburg City Schools for 16 years with my 4 children at 5 different schools. 2 are graduates of EC Glass, one's a current junior and another's at Lincoln Middle. We've had 5 superintendents, 14 head principals in 5 schools, and countless other school leaders. Dr. Danny Rule is the best of the best. His resignation sent shockwaves of sadness and confusion throughout the community. Thousands of people responded to a petition to reinstate him. Everyone asking what happened. For a whole community to feel blindsided, there has to be meaning. I don't think anyone believes he resigned willingly. So what has been happening that no one seems to know anything about? Were there major red flags? Why were we all unaware? It's hard to know how we as an EC Glass community move forward from this. Dr. Rule's leadership is built on relationships, trust, compassion, and love. Each day he greets his students with upbeat music, looks them in the eye, gives them a fist bump, and tells them they are loved. He knows that they are interested in and finds ways to encourage and foster growth through their own desires and creativity, facilitating innovation. This is evident in the many programs that he helped launch through intentional student development. He sees the goodness and the giftedness in every child, and he knows how to grow and amplify it. He is a people-oriented, authentic leader who connects by personal example and not coercion. You can't manufacture or teach this style of leadership. It's evident in everything he does. Love is not overrated. Is there any stronger force in the world? Losing someone who Losing someone who loves the city, the students, and the school because of what we can only assume was lack of support is very difficult. Did he have the support he needed? Through his leadership, Dr. Rule grew a unified, united student body out of a very disjointed one that we were a part of. This was tangible at the football and basketball games, pep rallies, during every Medford League home game, at the recent phenomenal Shrek performance, and at any of the other countless concerts, games, and performances. Our student section, the Zoo, is known throughout the region for the creative energy and vast participation. This is cultivated and has grown through his trust of the students, empowering the teachers, and letting them lead with their ideas, highlighted this year by an ESPN-themed game that made headlines. This unity is crucial because it fosters strength, resilience, and efficiency, enabling students to achieve common goals that are impossible individually. It promotes peace and mutual respect while building a supportive community. It also keeps kids in school and makes things more engaging and enjoyable for everyone. We have to find a way to remain united and work together for the sake of our students, but there has to be transparency and leadership now. This is what I'm asking of you. The petition for Dr. Rule has been signed and shared by over 3,600 people. The majority are students, parents, teachers, and alumni, but there are also hundreds of local business leaders, nonprofit leaders, university leaders who have signed from Centra, Framatome, BWXT, the University of Lynchburg, Liberty University, Randolph College, WNL, Daily Bread, Humankind, the Free Clinic, Jamerson Lewis, LG Flint, Women's Health Services, the Opera on the James, the Ed Foundation, the Bank of the James, law firms, financial offices, alumni boosters, the Topper Touchdown Club, and many more community leaders supporting Dr. Rule that we need. These individuals are significant local partners with Lynchburg City Schools, supporting programs, offering jobs, serving on boards and committees, and generously offering their funds and time for the sake of our city's students. This is a tremendous show of support and should not be ignored. Many of us have asked questions, requested meetings, and sought ways to assist and are getting no answers other than a potential survey asking for feedback. This is not how we move forward. I'm asking you, our elected leaders, to lead our youth and families through this time of uncertainty and what feels like lost hope. You've appointed the school board who oversees our admin. You all are responsible and accountable for what is happening. EC Glass, the largest high school in the city, is not stronger without Dr. Rule. His impact and role as our leader is invaluable to progress. The community supports him, and we are asking for your support too.
Agenda item number 19, hear from a citizen regarding misinformation about the proposed constitutional amendment. Jeff Rosner. Please restate your name and locality of residence.
Jeff Rosner, Lynchburg. Voters need correct information about the proposed constitutional amendment, such as the official explanation at the registrar's office, at polling places, and in today's News in Advance. Here are examples of misinformation about the amendment. An anti-amendment group, Virginians for Fair Maps, says, quote, politicians in Richmond are quietly trying to dismantle the Independent Redistricting Commission, unquote. The amendment says that the General Assembly may not modify districts after October 31st, 2030. So the Virginia Redistricting Commission will not be dismantled and will redistrict in 2031. Some postcards compare the amendment to Jim Crow and falsely imply that Governor Spanberger and Barack Obama are against the amendment. Other postcards say the amendment means 0 Black or Hispanic majority congressional districts. And a television ad claims the amendment would eliminate 2 existing Black majority districts. In fact, US Census data shows there are no existing Black or Hispanic majority districts now. The postcards and the TV ad came from 2 political action committees, Democracy and Justice, PAC and Justice for Democracy. Political action committees are required to report any affiliation with another organization. Both of these committees have exactly the same treasurer, street address, email address, and business phone. Neither of these committees has reported any affiliation as required. And finally, former Governor Youngkin and some Lynchburg political leaders have said that the amendment is not temporary. The amendment makes it clear that it is temporary because the previous redistricting process returns after 2030. Thank you.
Agenda item number 20, hear from a citizen regarding why I'm afraid to attend city council meetings. Sue Stengel. Please restate your name and locality of residence.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, my name is Sue Stengel, and I'm from Ward 3 in Lynchburg. I would like to explain why I'm afraid to attend city council meetings. I became recently afraid during the city council meeting of March 10th, while a loud and angry exchange broke out between a member of the audience and a city council member. By that time, several city council members had already been in an angry disagreement with each other. The overall mood in the room was one of anger. The member of the audience who began shouting at Councilman Feraldi typically carries a sidearm to council meetings. He was seated several rows behind me when he began shouting. It's my understanding from others that some council members sit on this dais armed with guns. I was caught in the crossfire. My primal instinct at that moment was to duck by laying down in my seat. As the News in Advance video shows, I remained upright. A year or so ago, the audience behaved with such anger and abusive language that I was afraid to walk to the car by myself. Mayor Taylor was kind enough to escort me out of the building toward my car until I felt safe enough to carry on. Thank you, Mayor Taylor. I am not alone in these feelings of fear during city council meetings. I've been told the same thing by people of varying ages. Some say they don't attend council meetings because of the vehement anger and body language of members of council and the audience. I ask you, is this the way you want the public you serve to feel about attending the meetings they have a right to attend and feel safe while doing so? You set an example for this community when you become visibly angry and say hateful, abusive things from the dais. The use of threatening language or body language that I've seen on this dais is beyond shameful. It's impeachable. Please stop it. Please stop it tonight. Thank you.
Agenda item number 21, hear from a group representative regarding collective bargaining. Brooke Carson, Lynchburg Education Association. Please restate your name, group representative, locality residents.
Good evening. My name is Brooke Carson. I'm here as a representative of Lynchburg Education Association. I'm from Pamplin, and I'm here to talk about collective bargaining. On April 7th, Mayor Taylor shared a letter to Governor Spanberger concerning House Bill 1263 and Senate Bill 378. To quote this letter, "For Lynchburg, collective bargaining means significant financial uncertainty and risk, as mandating collective bargaining across schools, public safety, and other local functions will drive up costs in ways that are difficult to control and impossible to ignore. Those costs will ultimately fall to our residents through higher taxes, fewer services, or both. At a time we are focused on affordability and economic growth, this is a step in the wrong direction." As the collective bargaining chair of the Lynchburg Education Association, it's an understatement to say I'm disappointed by the mayor's statements and by the support these statements have garnered among other Lynchburg public officials. To frame the argument around collective bargaining solely as a matter of cost is myopic. Providing a quality education for the young people of Lynchburg is a costly endeavor. And it's a fact that students and teachers need resources in order to thrive. And when these resources are not provided, our district pays in other ways, with higher teacher turnover, lower graduation rates, lower test scores, and a lower quality of education overall. Now, some people will say the fight for collective bargaining is solely about higher pay, and that is part of this. But to frame this as an extravagance, when really LCS employees are fighting for a livable wage. In 2023, Virginia ranked 22nd in the U.S. for teacher pay, according to the NEA's National Salary Survey Report, as shared by the Virginia Department of Education. Now, that's 2023. As we know, inflation has only been increasing in the last few years, and our district pay increases have not even matched the rising cost of living. Moreover, LCS is behind the state average in pay. LCS teachers make about $8,000 less a year than the average teacher salary in Virginia, despite the fact that our educational outcomes rank highly in the state. Additionally, this ranking only accounts for teachers, and we are only a fraction of the people who support our students. Our educational support professionals, ESPs, our custodians, our nutrition workers, our interpreters, our one-on-ones who assist students with individual learning needs are on a different hourly pay scale that has seen even fewer increases than classroom teachers. For instance, on the current LCS pay scale, a bus driver who has 35 years of experience in the district tops out at $23.17 an hour. As a result, low pay scale means we have dedicated, hardworking, experienced employees who simply cannot afford to stay in education. As a whole, LCS employees want to stay. Many of my coworkers at Glass went to Glass themselves and value that connection to the community at large. However, every year I see coworkers leave LCS for other districts, for new careers, because they can't justify staying in education at the current rate of pay. As a result, it's our students who pay the price. High turnover means we have fewer experienced staff to support new staff, meaning newer employees are also more likely to leave, accelerating the turnover even further. High turnover means schools have a tougher time establishing a consistent school culture, something which is vitally important for the success of our more vulnerable student populations. High turnover means higher cost as new employees need training. And high turnover means more open positions, which means less services available for our student population as a whole. When these positions remain open, as they often do, it's other employees who have to cover. Teachers are frequently asked to cover other classes during their planning or duty periods, which takes away from their ability to provide high-quality instruction and to help maintain duty procedures that keep school running smoothly, such as enforcing cell phone policies or keeping hallways clear during instructional time. Every year, we lose good teachers to burnout as more and more responsibilities are piled on their plate. In essence, as the LEA says, our working conditions are our students' learning conditions. We are fighting for so much more than higher pay with collective bargaining. We're fighting for our students to have the resources to grow into the successful adults they deserve to be. You say you are focused on economic growth, and that growth is not sustainable without a well-educated populace. If you don't invest in education now, you'll be robbing our young people of their future for short-term gain. I urge you to support this collective bargaining measure so we can work together to make LCS schools a nurturing, an even more nurturing learning environment for that our students deserve. Thank you.
Agenda item number 22, hear from a group representative regarding local and regional law enforcement. Gary Taylor, Citizens for a Better Lynchburg. Please restate your name, group representative.
Good evening. My name is Gary Taylor, Citizens for a Better Lynchburg, Good, Virginia. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, distinguished city staff, distinguished law enforcement. I'm going to speak on the law enforcement at a local level. It's going to center around 287G, and I know you guys have already handled it, but I just want to provide you with a little more information with a true story from Charlotte, North Carolina in the early 1990s. It's a sad story. So in 1980s to 2015, Charlotte's been one of the largest growing cities in the Southeast. And we had a huge immigration problem. So in the early 1990s, they wanted to address this because it was overwhelming law enforcement, it was overwhelming the schools. So it was a big issue. So people like yourself, city leaders, got together and said, how about if we deputize the sheriffs in Mecklenburg County to do dual law enforcement and immigration? Okay. Good people with good intent trying to solve an issue that was very important in that community at that time. Okay. So they're going to deputize the sheriff's deputies to do immigration. Okay. Well, I own my own business, stuff like that. Well, we use legal and illegal immigrants. There's thousands of them. 65% probably legal, 35% illegal. Okay. So now what you've done is you've put a law enforcement officer, not an ICE agent, a law enforcement officer to enforce immigration policy. Okay. They're trying to solve an issue. I mean, everybody, there's good intentions by good people. Okay. The results are deadly. Okay. You say, well, how would that happen? Well, a person, the last thing you ever want is a person in the United States to ever fear a law enforcement officer or be afraid to go to the bank. So what that forced was illegal immigrants who were still working. I'm not talking about the gangsters and all the people Joe Biden left. I'm talking about people that were working and stuff like that. So that forced them underground. Well, everybody knew where they lived. So people think, you know, criminals are pretty smart. So what are they going to do? So the gangs got together and they went into these communities where these people couldn't go to the bank anymore. They're afraid to lift their head up. They're in like a secret society. Okay. One of the guys that helped me sell Christmas trees, he probably had $5,000. Now he can't go to the bank. So he's carrying it around with him. Okay. So the gangs go into these areas. Everybody knows where they're at. They rob them, but that's not bad enough. Then they stick a gun to their head and they blow their brains out. Okay? It was good intentions by good people that produce deadly results. And that's why you can never have law enforcement be part of immigration. Okay? You never want anyone, whether they're legal, illegal, a citizen, non-citizen, to ever be afraid of law enforcement. Okay? These people come from countries where the police are corrupt, where the police do kill people and work for the gangs. We don't want that in America. So I think it was just a little misunderstanding that we had to sign on with ICE and so forth and so on. I think the conclusion is Lynchburg PD fully cooperates with ICE. There's never been a question of that. And they don't need a written document to do that. But I just wanted to share that story if it comes up in the future, because immigration is going to continue to be an issue in our country. But it was a sad story to see, and the pushback was quick, and they reversed it. But I just wanted to share that with you. So thank you. Have a good night.
Agenda item number 23, hear from a group representative regarding resignation of Dr. Danny Rule. Kay Vaughn, keep Dr. Rule at EC Glass. Please restate your name, group representative, and locality of residence.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kay Vaughn. I just turned 80 last week, and I did the math and realized that I've been a loyal booster of all things EC Glass for 66 of those 80 years as a student, teacher, and volunteer. My siblings, my 3 children, and 4 of my grandchildren have all graduated from EC Glass, and I graduated in 1964. After college, I taught English at Glass for 3 different decades and spent 6 years teaching at the Pride Alternative Center after retirement. My husband, JP, was in the first class to graduate from the new EC Glass in 1954, and JP and I were proud to be named lifetime boosters at Glass. Outside of JP, who died in 2020, I believe I am the oldest and most loyal stakeholder here in Lynchburg. There have been 17 principals at EC Glass since 1920, when Lynchburg High School's name was changed to EC Glass in honor of the superintendent who served 52 years. Of those 17, there are only 3 from 1920 to 1944, before I was born, that I did not know personally and professionally. Of the 14, I ranked Dr. Danny Rule in the top 3 overall. And this is most important, number 1 in terms of the positive relationships he has developed with the students in 3 very short years. I was actually privileged to be on the selection committee to hire Dr. Rule 3 years ago. We each got to ask him 2 questions. Mine were, if hired, will you continue the positive traditions at EC Glass? Absolutely, he replied. The second was, if hired, will you commit to staying at Glass for a good long time? Absolutely, he enthusiastically replied. I believed him then, and I still believe that EC Glass is where he belongs, and I know it's where he wants to be. There's so much I can say about the need to keep Dr. Rule, but because of the time limit, I would prefer to read a letter that Patty Worsham wrote to the superintendent recently. Patty would love to be here to read it herself, but she had a scheduling conflict. Not only does she praise the job he is doing, which we all feel, but she offers solutions to some of the problems. We believe that changing principals every 3 years should not be one of those solutions. This is Patty's letter. My name is Patty Worsham, and I taught English at EC Glass for 47 years. And for the last 3, I have worked with the Beacon of Hope Future Center at Glass. Needless to say, I love Glass, and I believe it is the best around. I've worked with many wonderful people and a few gifted principals, but none more gifted than Danny Rule. He is one of the best humans I know. In addition, he is an intelligent, patient, committed, and directed leader with a strong vision for the school. Has he had the support he needs in terms of funding and staff to run the best school possible? Absolutely not. Glass serves a challenging population. We are heavy on both ends of the demographic, which means we serve some of Lynchburg's most challenging young people and some of its most privileged students as well. This would be a challenge for any leader. Glass offers more AP classes than any school in the area, has more AP scholars, and more acceptances to prestigious schools post-secondary. We also have some students reading well below grade level, and yet we no longer have a reading specialist on staff. We have students who would be more successful in an alternative environment. However, there's never enough support or room for those who need a non-traditional classroom. Again, this takes funding, personnel, and vision. By not giving bonuses to math teachers, we have lost many talented teachers to the counties, and our students' progress and test scores reflect this. Let's be clear about the source of the challenges for LCS. Lack of reading specialists, lack of bonuses for math teachers, frequent unfunded mandates, lack of alternative schools, and lack of competitive salaries. These are the problems that need to be addressed by the school board and city council. Sending Danny Rule on his way is not the answer. Can I just finish? Just this. Danny and his beautiful family will find greener pastures. He will continue to make a meaningful difference in the lives of young people, but ultimately his departure will be Lynchburg's loss. Can I read one quote from this book, that Education of Little Tree? We teachers like to have visual aids. I think it's very applicable. Grandma said, when you come on something good, first thing to do is share it with whoever you can find. That way the good spreads out where no telling it will go, which is right. Danny Rule is something good. EC Glass needs and deserves something good. Our kids deserve something good. Keeping Danny Rule is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pursuant to Section 5(3)(11) of the Rules of Procedure, I'd like to make a motion to add a closed session agenda item to our April 28th work session to get an update from the city manager on the public comment agenda item number 16 regarding Deputy Chief Marcus Bush. So I make that as a motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't really need to speak to it. I just think that now that this has become public through public comment tonight, I believe that it's best for us to get an update from the city manager in closed session. That's all I have.
So I don't think there is a provision in the Freedom of Information Act that would allow the manager to give you all an update on personnel that does not answer to you.
I'm not asking for anything pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, Mr. Friedman. I'm asking for the manager to give us a personnel update, which he's done in closed session before.
But you have to have a lawful exception.
So that's for you to come up with a personnel matter or something of that nature. He's done it before.
Personnel won't fit. So I could probably see where I could conduct it as legal advice or as something along those lines, if that's agreeable.
Sure, but I want the city manager to provide the update to us because he doesn't work for you. He works for the city manager. However, you guys can figure out the language of the closed session. I think it's appropriate. That was made public tonight by the gentleman's spouse. I believe that it's appropriate for us to get an update in closed session. I don't think that we need to discuss the issue openly. but I do think it's appropriate for us to get an update from the city manager
So
in some way, shape, or form, in a way that is consistent with the Freedom of Information Act.
And that's just what I'm telling you. So I can, it's just not going to be a quote unquote update from the manager. Okay?
That's,
Okay.
so that, I understand that. However you determine the language needs to be, that's what I'm, so I'll amend my motion with the approved language by the city attorney. There you go.
Second, you want to speak to it?
I don't think I need to.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? Yes. Ms. Reed?
I don't agree. There's no need for this. We've gone through this in emails and we know exactly what this is. And this is no disrespect to the family or the spouse and her concerns at all. But what's happening right here, we all know, and there's no need for this to happen. We've talked about personnel issues before and what can be shared and what can't be shared, and we know what the actual agenda is here. So I'm not supporting this at all.
Anyone else? Ms. Timmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's an appropriate needed discussion. I will be voting in favor.
Great.
Mr. Wilder? No? Okay. Let's vote.
All right, initiating the vote to add a closed session item on the April 28th meeting.
Ron just came back up. I don't know what happened.
The motion passes 5-2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moving along to general business. The next section is general business. It includes new items for discussion a little bit differently tonight. We've got two business item briefings. These would normally come to your work sessions. These are just staff briefings for something that will be coming down for council action at a subsequent meeting. So again, just briefings, no action on these first two.
Thank you.
The first item, agenda item number 24, rezoning of 1516 Florida Avenue, Jubilee STEM Center addition. Ms. Rachel Fresheisen will provide a summary of the request.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. The purpose of this petition is to rezone 1516 Florida Avenue from B5C General Business and R4 High Density Residential to amend existing proffers and allow for the expansion of the existing Jubilee Family Development Center. Planning Commission recommended approval of this item at their hearing on March 25th. Our future land use map recommends neighborhood commercial use for the area. These are meant to be office, retail, personal service, uses that are designed to be compatible with and serve immediate neighborhoods. The property is split zoned. The portion along Florida Avenue is zoned B5C General Business District conditional with R4 High Density Residential in the rear. If the petitioner is if the petition is approved, the proposal is to construct a one-story addition, approximately 2,500 square feet in size, to an existing structure. The facility would serve as additional classroom space for the Jubilee Center. As mentioned previously, this property is split zoned. The front portion is B5C. The proffers on the B5C portion limit the development of that site to a particular layout, which does not align with the proposed addition. So the petition proposes to replace these proffers with the one in the report. The rest of the property is zoned R4. The topography at the rear is very steep, making development unlikely. However, there is a flat portion shown in the dashed area here, which the petitioner proposes to rezone to the B5C portion. No improvements are proposed at this time, but changing this area to the B5C zoning would allow for more flexibility in the future development of the site. This item would return for City Council public hearing on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilder?
Yes, I do want to disclose that I am an employee of the Jubilee Family Development Center. And I know we're not voting today, but I do want to disclose that. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Fisher.
5, again, business item briefing. The FY 2027 Community Development Advisory Committee recommendations for Community Development Block Grant and Home Program Entitlement Funds. Ms. Melville Walker, Grants Manager, will provide a summary of the request.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, Vice Mayor Deemer, and members of City Council. City staff has accepted applications for the fiscal year 2027 Community Development Block Grant and Home Program. While the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, had not provided the final entitlement amounts for fiscal year 2027 when CDAC met, we used the fiscal year 2026 entitlement amounts for the review by the committee. CDAC conducted a meeting on March 23rd and reviewed the submitted CDBG and home program applications and formulated recommendations for consideration by City Council. These preliminary recommendations have been provided to you. A public hearing will be conducted on April 28th, and an approval and allocation of project funds will be completed at that time to be incorporated into the fiscal year 2027 annual action plan.
Thank you. Mr. Wilder?
Yes, again, thank you, Ms. Walker, for that presentation. I'm one of the members of the CDAC committee. I'm so appreciative for the city staff, the work they do for the committee, as well as the citizens and Ms. Timmer that is on the committee as well. We have some amazing nonprofits in our community and the work they're doing with housing for nonprofits and housing for the underserved population and the things that go from Habitat to Rush Homes to various organizations. It's amazing how we work together for our population, our community. So I'm glad to serve in that committee. Thank you.
Ms. Timmer?
I'll just further affirm Dr. Wilder's comments. I greatly enjoy serving on that committee. We have a lot of really neat people involved and some great conversation, and greatly appreciate your leadership. So thank you.
Moving along to agenda item number 26, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a settlement agreement and release between the City of Lynchburg and Campbell County, Virginia. Deputy City Manager Greg Patrick will provide a summary of the request.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. Before you tonight for a vote is a proposed legal settlement and potential expansion of the Region 2000 Services Authority's Rustburg landfill. The proposed settlement agreement has taken a very circuitous route to come before you today. We'll start at the beginning to ensure you all have appropriate context ahead of your vote. First, we'll run through a little bit of a brief history on the Region 2000 Services Authority, then the status of the existing landfill and what our future options are. A little history of litigation. January 2025, we were very close to a legal settlement and expansion of the landfill, but ultimately it did not succeed. We'll review the current proposal, and then we'll take a look at next steps. So first, the history of the Region 2000 Services Authority. It was formed, established in 2007. Original members included the City of Lynchburg, Campbell County, Appomattox County, Nelson County, and the town of Bedford. Initially, there were two landfill sites. There was the Concord Turnpike landfill in Lynchburg, and there was the Livestock Road landfill in Campbell. We filled the Concord Turnpike landfill in Lynchburg in 2014 and are continuing to take refuse to the landfill in Rustburg. That landfill accepts both commercial and municipal waste. About 65% of the waste that goes to that landfill is commercial. The members reached an agreement ultimately to allow the town of Bedford to leave the authority in 2013, probably a decision that many members rue to this day. And ultimately, there was an expansion of the Rustburg landfill in 2015, bringing the landfill to its current size.
Where we are right now is we expect that landfill in Rustburg to reach its capacity towards the end of 2028 or the beginning of 2029. We've got updated estimates just recently that looks like it might be early 2029 at this point, which is good. Options going forward, first and foremost, ideally we'll find a way to expand the Livestock Road landfill. That is far and away the lowest cost option for our municipal refuse disposal. It would, based on the expansion plans that have been developed, would provide about 25 years of additional capacity. Of course, any landfill creates some environmental and lifestyle concerns, but the best place for a landfill is where one already exists. Alternatively, if we're unable to expand the landfill, most likely we would be in a situation either to build our own or to partner with a commercial partner to build a transfer station in the city of Lynchburg. We would then take our trash to that transfer station, we'd load it onto a transfer truck, and we'd have to find a landfill somewhere in the region to take that trash. There's one in Amelia, there's one in Pennsylvania County right now, and there's one in, I believe, on the far side of Roanoke. And we'd have to figure out where it was most cost effective. That is far and away going to be more expensive than ultimately expanding the landfill. So a little bit of history of litigation with the Region 2000 Services Authority. One of the most important things to understand about the region is the concept of excess revenue. So when commercial haulers take their waste to the landfill, they pay what's called a tipping fee. Tipping fee is the cost you pay per ton to dispose of refuse at the landfill. They pay a tipping fee that's $10 more per ton than the municipal members. That $10 is considered excess revenue based on the foundational documents of the region. And the intent in the member use agreement was that excess revenue was paid out initially to Campbell County and to Lynchburg when we were operating the Concord Turnpike landfill as what were essentially host fees. There was some language in the foundational documents that provided provided space for us to get into a litigious environment with some of our partners. And that language basically states that if there is excess revenue, the members of the Region 2000 Services Authority Board may, not shall, distribute that excess revenue to Campbell and to Lynchburg. Every year from 2008 to 2018, that excess revenue was distributed via a vote by the board members unanimously. In 2019, that changed when Nelson and Appomattox County voted against distributing that excess revenue to Lynchburg and to Campbell, which ultimately put us at loggerheads and into litigation against one another and the region. So that is what started this process. And ultimately where we landed was right now there is about $1.5 million that would technically be owed to Lynchburg as a result of this excess revenue, and a little over $6 million that would be owed to Campbell if all of that excess revenue was distributed as we believe it should have been. So January 2025, we'll fast forward a little bit. There was a proposed settlement agreement to expand the Region 2000 Services Authority landfill in Rustburg. That proposed settlement would have seen Nelson and Appomattox County receive $250,000 one-time payments and leave the authority, making Campbell County and Lynchburg the remaining members in the authority. Campbell County was to approve a rezoning and a special use permit that would have allowed the landfill expansion to move forward. All of the excess revenue that we mentioned on the previous slide, the $1.5 million for Lynchburg, the $6 million for Campbell, would have been distributed to each of us respectively. Nelson and Appomattox counties, for the life of the expansion, so that 25 years, would be able to take the trash there and pay member tipping fees. So they'd pay the same amount that we would pay and Campbell would pay per ton of trash. And they wouldn't be required to take their trash to the landfill. Campbell County would receive an annual host fee of $750,000 from the region. That would go up based on inflation. And then all parties would agree to drop all of the existing lawsuits. So fast forward to January 7th, 2025, Campbell County Board of Supervisors held a public hearing. I was there. It was a long night. It was actually January 8th before the vote occurred. And the Campbell County Board of Supervisors at that point voted 4-3 to deny the rezoning and the special use permit, effectively killing landfill expansion plans. Subsequently, at the next Region 2000 Services Authority meeting on March 12th, 2025, Lynchburg joined Nelson and Appomattox counties and voted to distribute the excess revenue funds that were in question to the post-closure reserve. Ultimately, the thinking there is without expansion of that landfill, because Lynchburg is the largest municipal hauler, we take the most trash there, we had about 60% of the liability related to all the costs required when you close down a landfill. And they are substantial, and there are very strict environmental rules and regulations that we have to follow. We're projecting at the time that about $16 million was required to be in an annuity when that landfill closed in order to cover all of those costs. So essentially, by distributing the excess revenue to the post-closure reserve, Lynchburg received essentially credit for about 60% of all of those funds. So it was a much better deal for us if those funds were in the post-closure reserve than if they were distributed, because it massively diminished our liability. October 24th, 2025, Campbell County came to the Region 2000 Services Authority board meeting and offered board members with a proposal that Campbell would take over ownership of all of the region's assets and liabilities. But there was no talk at that point in time of any plans or commitment to expand the landfill. That would not be a good deal for Lynchburg. Ultimately, wherever we head with refuse, the one thing we can't have is an expanded landfill and a transfer station in Lynchburg, because then we're competing with each other, and the economics of that transfer station just doesn't work. So ultimately, and a lot of credit to the city council members, to the board of supervisors of Campbell County, ultimately the plan to expand the landfill was resurrected by some of the board members in Campbell County who realized that the economics of expansion is just significantly better for Campbell than potentially building a transfer station there. Worked with a number of our city council members to start the process of negotiating a potential settlement. And then ultimately, March 17th, 2025, Mayor Taylor and members of city council all received a letter and settlement offer from the Campbell County Board of Supervisors. So what does that proposed settlement offer look like? First, Campbell County would take ownership of all assets and liabilities of the Region 2000 Services Authority, with the exception of the Concord Turnpike landfill. That's in Lynchburg. We'd want to maintain control of that. Lynchburg would take control of Concord Turnpike, and we'd receive from the region any funds that are set aside for its maintenance in the post-closure reserve related to Concord Turnpike. Campbell and Lynchburg would leave all of those previously contested excess revenue funds in the closure and post-closure reserve. This essentially because the annuity we need to close down the current cell is now funded at a much higher rate, keeps tipping fees much, much lower for all of us. So ultimately, it is a good deal if all those funds stay in the closure post-closure reserve. There is an agreement, though, if Campbell takes a distribution from that closure and post-closure reserve, that Lynchburg would receive a pro rata distribution up to the total amount of $1.5 million that ultimately was owed to us. Campbell has made a commitment to move expeditiously towards expansion of the landfill. And most importantly, Lynchburg and Campbell would pay the same tipping fees as each other. So we would get the Campbell tipping fee. Ultimately, this settlement agreement, while it's between the city of Lynchburg and Campbell County, We are not the only interested parties. Nelson and Appomattox counties as members must also agree to a settlement. It's not a majority rules. This is an instance where all jurisdictions must be in agreement. Nelson and Appomattox received slightly different offers from Campbell County than we did. Both of those localities would receive a one-time payment of $250,000. And those localities, their tipping fees would be the Lynchburg and Campbell tipping fee rate plus 20% premium on top of that. Campbell County has also offered a commitment to Appomattox County that they will communicate to the Campbell County Utility Services Authority to begin negotiations of extending the water contract that exists between Campbell County and Appomattox. I think it's the town of Appomattox ultimately. As part of all of the litigation around Region 2000, Campbell sells water to town of Appomattox. That got mixed up in all of this litigation, and at one point, the Campbell County Board of Supervisors communicated to Appomattox that until the Region 2000 litigation was cleared up, there'd be no conversations around extending that water contract. So it's a big deal to Appomattox County. We have offered a couple of amendments back to Campbell County as part of this negotiation. We have worked with Campbell County's attorney and administrator who have worked closely with their board members to make sure these are acceptable amendments. First, we wanted a date specific by which Campbell County would approve the landfill. In their settlement offer, they have requested that all of the jurisdictions ultimately vote to approve the settlement agreement by April 20th, so next week. If that's done, we should be able to move forward with a vote on rezoning and a special use permit by the end of this fiscal year. So we've put a date specific of June 30th, 2026 in that settlement agreement. Time is of the essence more than anything else. We're going to be 18 months behind where we were last January, and time was short then. So we need to get moving here if we're going to expand that landfill. There's also a commitment that Lynchburg funds will not be used to pay a host fee to Campbell County. This was important. It's one of the areas where, one of the things you pay us to do is make sure that we don't put council and the city in a situation where we could be taken advantage of financially. The deal was pretty tightly drawn up, but there was one area where if Campbell were to pay itself a sort of an absorbent tipping fee or a host fee, that could cost Lynchburg some substantial dollars. They've committed that no Lynchburg funds will go towards paying Campbell a host fee. And then also importantly, the existing landfill cell that will remain open until early 2029. We have scheduled tipping fee rates for that cell that extend through 2029. There's a commitment that those rates would stay the same, and Campbell wouldn't load any of the capital development costs of the new landfill cell into those tipping fees, and we won't pay any of those in the tipping fee until ultimately the new cells are opened. So what is our recommendation to City Council? I think we strongly recommend that Council approve the settlement agreement with the edits we've recommended. I think overall, this is probably a better financial deal for Lynchburg than even the deal was last January, primarily because we have no liability at all for those closure and post-closure liabilities related to the Rustburg landfill. And then ultimately leaving those contested funds in the closure and post-closure reserve for the existing cell really drives down tipping fees, and we'll see that benefit over the next 25 years. So next steps, all localities have been asked to approve the settlement agreement by April 20th, as I had mentioned. Tonight, this vote is in front of Lynchburg City Council. Campbell County is also taking this up tonight as well. Nelson County, the Nelson County Board of Supervisors is scheduled to have a discussion and hopefully a vote tonight on their settlement agreement as well. And as I understand it, Appomattox is scheduled to discuss this and vote on April 20th. If ultimately all the member jurisdictions approve the settlement agreement, Campbell will move very, very quickly on the rezoning and special use permit required to begin the expansion process. And then if it's not approved, I think this process has probably run its course, and we're going to have to find another direction to go in. We've been operating down dual paths. So we have a plan in place that we would ultimately come to council with shortly after this if it doesn't look like expansion is a possibility. So that's the end of the presentation tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. You jumped ahead of me. I was going to motion to approve. You want to speak to your motion?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Patrick, I appreciate the work you put into this. This is a huge opportunity. I really hope that Nelson, Campbell, and Appomattox see that this is what it is for us, because this is not just a Lynchburg solution. This is a regional solution. We've got to have somewhere to put our trash, and when we can do it in a way where we're not increasing the burden on our citizens, it's even better. The only thing we need to figure out now how to do is to make sure we don't have trash fees next year like we haven't had for the last 3 years. But I appreciate the work put into this, and hopefully we can also figure out how to get those trash fees eliminated for next year as well. Thank you.
Ms. Timmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Patrick, for your presentation. I am so excited about this. I'm so thrilled about this. I'm grateful to Campbell County Board of Supervisors for their persistence and their diligence in reaching out to council members. I am grateful for the flexibility of city staff, and specifically for your due diligence on the host fees and item number 5 when it comes to distribution. We had a conversation about that. Thank you so much for the due diligence there. I think this is excellent. I think this is the direction we need to go, and I am very excited to support this.
Anyone else? Any more discussion? No discussion? Let's vote.
All right, initiating the vote now to approve. The motion passes 6-1. All right, moving on to agenda item number 27. Consideration of adopting a resolution supporting the independent governance of and traditions of the Virginia Military Institute. This item was sponsored by Vice Mayor Deemer and was brought before council during its work session on March 10th.
Motion to approve.
You want to speak to your motion?
Just real briefly, I am encouraged that most of the aggressive versions of the legislation in Richmond impacting VMI have been scaled back. That's a positive development, I think, and reflects the concerns raised across the Commonwealth, and they are being heard. At the same time, the underlying issues of independence, traditions, and the mission of that great organization are what make it unique among our public institutions in the Commonwealth. I did not attend there, but I know several of my friends who did, and it is a proud university, and it really sets Virginia apart that we have something like that. If we had a diamond university, that would be a diamond university. And they have produced generations of leaders who continue to serve our community, just like here in Lynchburg, with great distinction. So for that reason, I believe it's still appropriate for us to remain on record in support of VMI's independent governance structure, while acknowledging the evolving legislation that kind of went through processes. But this is not about resisting accountability. It is about ensuring that any changes are thoughtful, measured, and respectful of the institution's longstanding role in our great Commonwealth. So hope you will vote for it.
Speak to it. Ms.
Timmer. I appreciate Mr. Deemer. I appreciate his leadership on council, and I appreciate his work on this effort. My support is a little bit more philosophical in nature. I love that in the construct of our federalist system of government, the assumption is that it starts with self-governance, and then it goes local, and then it goes state, and then it goes national. And if everything gets centralized nationally, we will ultimately collapse in on ourselves. I think that this is a microcosm of that. I think there's an opportunity for us as a local government to essentially stand on those Federalist principles and to support a great university where we have many alum and members of the community who are affiliated. So thank you, Mr. Deemer, for your work on this, and I'm happy to support you in your efforts.
Is there anyone else? Marty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I appreciate the work you put into this, Mr. Vice Mayor. It's an easy one to support. And, you know, what they were trying to do in Richmond was just ridiculous. To go after VMI, to try to defund it, to, in my opinion, demoralize an institution like that, just absolutely unacceptable. I fully support this. We don't need to undermine, politicize, or weaken that institution whatsoever. I served with people overseas who were VMI graduates. I have friends here in Lynchburg who are VMI graduates. And I think that it's important that we recognize what this was. And it was just Democrats being Democrats and trying to politicize this. We don't need that. Easy to support. Thank you.
Mr. Wilder?
I do not support the motion. I think we have so many challenges here in Lynchburg we need to be addressing instead of using staff time for issues that don't have no effect in Lynchburg whatsoever. That's why I do not support the motion. I do appreciate VMI and the work they're doing in the state, but I think this is not one of our issues. We have so much more issues with schools, with poverty, with crime that we need to address ourselves, with budgeting issues. So I do not think staff time should be spent in doing this. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Ferrari?
Mayor, I would, in a humble way, ask our vice mayor if he wrote the resolution, because I believe he did. I don't think there was much staff time on this. Is that correct?
That's correct. To my knowledge, there was no staff time. Is that right?
Well, outside of getting it on the agenda.
Putting it on the agenda, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Reed?
I support VMI. I know quite a few people who went there. My husband was going to go there. Was choosing between the mountains. He tells me the mountains or the beaches of Charleston, and he chose the Citadel for the beaches of Charleston. But either way, support the Military Institute and the wonderful traditions there and the honor and valor and loyalty that they teach. And so I support this resolution.
There's one typographical error I noticed in the resolving clause. It's just an additional before Lynchburg. I assume there's no objection to remove that.
No.
Thank you.
You just had
There goes the staff time.
Yeah.
No more discussion. Let's vote.
Initiating the vote to approve now. Motion passes 6-1.
Yes, sir.
Can I make just a very brief statement before we entertain closed session?
Mr.
Mayor, and Miss Susan, I would love for you to hear this if that's okay. At the last city council meeting, my temper got the best of me, and I owe this job my best, and that was not it. And for that, I do apologize. Thank you.
Pursuant to section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, to consult with legal counsel representing the city in connection with actual or probable litigation affecting the city where such consultation or briefing in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the city, the subject of the closed meeting being connected to actual or probable litigation connected to, 1, pending issues concerning a development in the city, and 2, a pending city law enforcement lawsuit, and consideration of a closed meeting to discuss appointments for vacancies to the following boards and commissions: Planning Commission and Blue Ridge Regional Jail Authority. Pursuant to section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended.
Closed session. Move. Second. We'll now in closed session.
Really got to quick vote. Looks
Cast
like
your votes,
people are
please.
packed.
No,
Okay.
I backed up. Can we do voice?
Yes, Councilmember Feraldi. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any noes? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Very efficient.